Biography of Leo Tolstoy by Hunter Mazzarini. Who is Leo Tolstoy? In the 1850s, he published his first autobiographies, Childhood, Boyhood, and Youth. In the 1860s, he wrote his first great novel, War and Peace. In 1877, Tolstoy set to work on the second of his best-known novels, Anna Karenina. He continued to write fiction throughout the 1880s and 1890s, and one of his most successful later works was The Death of Ivan Ilyich. He inspired and was friends with Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King, and he is considered one of the most prominent Russian writers of his time. On September 9, 1828, Leo Tolstoy was born in Tula Provinciento, Russia, into an aristocratic family with links to some of the most powerful families in all of Russia. Tolstoy was the fourth cousin of Alexander Pushkin, who is considered the greatest Russian poet of the Romantic era. In his early life, he struggled with his studies and drifted through life, ending up with large gambling debts. Tired of his poor lifestyle, Tolstoy volunteered to serve in the Russian army, but his experiences as a soldier led him to become a pacifist after the war. During the period that Tolstoy was a junker in the army, he worked on an autobiographical story called Childhood. In it, he wrote of his fondest childhood memories. In 1852, Tolstoy submitted the story to The Contemporary, one of the most popular journals of his time. The story was eagerly accepted and became Tolstoy's very first published work. Tolstoy, 2 years later, composed Boyhood, the second book in what would become a trilogy. Tolstoy also expressed his views on war from his life experiences in a 3-part series named Sevastopol Tales, raising his profile as a leading Russian writer and even gained the attention of the current Tsar Nicholas I. In the second Sevastopol Tales book, Tolstoy experimented with a relatively new writing technique. Part of the story is presented in the form of the soldier's point of view. Once the Crimean War ended, Tolstoy left the army and returned home. Back in Russia, he found himself in high demand on the St. Petersburg literary scene. Stubborn and arrogant, Tolstoy refused to choose any particular intellectual school of thought, declaring himself an anarchist. He made off to Paris in 1857. While in Paris, he managed to publish Youth, the third part of his autobiographical trilogy, in 1857, but soon came back to Russia due to financial issues. In 1862, Tolstoy married Sophia Behrs. She was 16 years younger than him, but the marriage must have been stable because Tolstoy wrote his great epics War and Peace and Anna Karenina. War and Peace is breathtaking in its scope, realism, and sense of history. Some characters were real historical people, while others were made up. It tells a narrative of the Napoleonic War against the backdrop of two families. Tolstoy never saw it as a novel, but as an epic. It suggested the necessity of making the best of life, whatever your situation. After writing War and Peace and Anna Karenina, Tolstoy underwent a change in religious and philosophical attitude. Influenced by the Buddhism and Jesus Christ's Sermon on the Mount, he developed a pacifist anarchist philosophy, and he became supportive of civil disobedience to improve the welfare of the oppressed. He noted in his attitudes, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," stating, "The sole meaning of life is to serve humanity by contributing to the establishment of the kingdom of God, which can only be done by the recognition and profession of the truth of every man." His philosophy began to attract disciples in idealistic Tolstoy communes. He became excommunicated with the Orthodox Church, but his legacy as a writer and unique thinker were enhanced throughout the world. He gained a status as being the world's leading writer. In the later parts of his life, Tolstoy developed a close relationship with the young Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was very impressed with Tolstoy's belief in nonviolence resistance, vegetarianism, and his religious views on anarchist Christianity. Later, looking back on his life, Tolstoy bitterly regretted his misspent years of his youth. Tolstoy later confessed in 1882, stating, I cannot recall those years without horror, loathing, and heart-rending pain. I killed people in war, challenged men in duels with the purpose of killing them, and lost at cards. I squandered the fruits of the peasants' toil and then had them executed. I was a fornicator and a cheat, lying, stealing, promiscuity of every kind, drunkenness, violence, murder. There was not a crime I did not commit. Thus I lived for 10 years. Tolstoy died on November 20th, 1910 in Ostapovo, Russia. He wrote books like Childhood, Boyhood, Sevastopol Sketches, Youth, Cossacks, The War and Peace, God Sees the Truth But Waits, Anna Karenina, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, What Is to Be Done, The Kingdom of God Is Within You, Resurrection, Hadihai, Murad, and the Devil.